Ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Now, this replay, this OP replays, we've got two tier 10 games. Of course, in update 9.1, a few of these are, or almost all of tier 10 are going to change, as we have already spoke about previously. But some of these tanks, the two tanks in particular that I have as an OP replay today, I want to talk about because, to be honest, they're not really like anything else. So I still don't understand. Like I said on my update, the 9.1 video, I don't understand some of these changes. I get that Wargaming want to change the meta. I get they want to make it different from time to time. And I get that they want to make each tank their own sort of unique play style. But the two tanks that are in this video, which firstly we're going to speak about the 121. Now the 121 is a great tank. It really is a fantastic tank. It's got a nice turret. It's obviously got around 3,500 DPM, and it's got the high alpha gun, 420 alpha. Now it used to have 400. Wargaming buffed it to make it 420, just like they did the 113, which then made the 113 the highest heavy tank DPM in tier 10. But there's no other medium tank out there in tier 10 that can do what the 121 can do. They are all different. It has the really high alpha, basically a heavy alpha gun. There's nothing really like that in tier 10. So what changes are they going to do with the 121? Now, obviously, Wargaming have said almost all tanks will be rebalanced. So maybe the 121 will be left. And in my opinion, the 121 should be left because there's nothing out there in tier 10 that plays very like the 121. So hopefully the 121 remains the same. I can't see how they're going to change it or what they're going to change of it. Yes, of course, it's got the strong turret. There are other tanks out there with a strong turret. You've got the Patterns, you've got the STB. So yes, there are tanks out there that have strong turrets like the 121. So maybe they will maybe they'll nerf the turret. I really don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to touch it at all. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think about the 121? I mean, the 121 is still a tough tank to play, but it is still a fantastic tank. If you put it in the right situation, it is still a fantastic tank to play. So we're going to watch the rest of this replay here. It is a 3 versus 3. Our guy, King of Typos, he's still full hit points, which really, really helps. Being in a 3 versus 3 situation really, really helps. Of course, he is getting help from a heavy tank behind him, which, because of that, manages to clear that waffle without him losing pretty much any hit points. He lost a few, obviously, because of the ram, but that is all he has lost. So now it's a 2 versus 2 situation, and they're both full hit points. Him and the E4 are, the E4 is around, he is there, he is moving. So yeah, and this is where I always say, save your hit points. Don't waste your hit points if you don't need to waste them. Just try, unless it's you have to, obviously, unless you have to use them, waste them, just try and keep your hit points for as long as possible, because you will need them. There will be occasions where you will need your hit points later on. So he's now got this Jagdtiger, and as we know, the Jagdtiger is one of the highest DPMs in the game, not just the tier, but in the game. So now he's got himself into a position where he can just farm on this Jagdtiger. He doesn't have to worry about the Chieftain. The E4 is going to deal with the Chieftain, so all he needs to worry about is the Jagdtiger. Even if the E4 didn't kill the Chieftain, they are separated, and now the Jagdtiger is basically isolated. So he's managed just to really, really bully this Jagdtiger. The Jagdtiger got himself into a position where he couldn't really get out of it. But King of Typos, he saw that, he pushed, and it was a very good push. So in the end, he didn't even need the hit points that he's got anyway, because he ends on 8,200 damage. Very, very good game. Now, next up is the one tank that pretty much everybody is talking about, because this is pretty much going to receive one of the biggest changes. As we know, the turret on this thing is going to get less armor, I believe, and the shells is going to be 4 shells instead of 3. But of course, with it being 4 shells, the alpha of each shell is going to be slightly less. Now, I don't know how this is going to play out. I really don't know how it's going to play out. Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? I really don't know. Now, I do like the fact that it is getting a turret nerf, because there is just too many, just like we've just spoken about in the last game. There is too many tanks that are strong turret wise that could just go hold down. So I do like the fact that Wargaming do want to change that in a way. I hope they do stick to that, and there's only a certain few tanks, maybe 1 in each class or something, or maybe, or whatever, that can do that, because otherwise it does sort of become very, very stale. The gameplay does become stale, because all the tanks are the same shit. All the tanks do the same thing, just get in a hold down position, like this Yo, like a T-57, or like any other tank almost in tier 10 that could just go hold down. Almost most of the heavies can go hold down. I mean, the IS-7 there can go hold down, the IS-4 can go hold down. There's loads of tanks in tier 10 that can just go hold down. Now with the 4 shells, I really do not know how it's going to play out, because you're going to obviously have to expose your tank a lot longer to get those 4 shells out instead of 3. Now, I don't understand why the why the AMX-50B has to even change, because yes, the only other tank, the only other heavy like this is the T-57 heavy, but the T-57 heavy plays completely different to the AMX-50B. They both play completely different. Yes, they are both auto-loaders. Yes, I like the fact that it looks like they're keeping the T-57 heavy as 3 shells and not 4. I like that. I just don't get the change. I honestly don't get the change. Now, a lot of people actually say the AMX-50B is too strong. I don't think so. It's a good tank. In the right hands, it is a really, really good tank. Obviously, you have people like Happy. He loves the 50B, but he's a really good player. He suits the 50B really well, and I'm not sure how he's going to take the buff or the nerf or whatever, the change. It's going to be completely different with the 4 shells. But I just don't understand why. I don't understand why they would change the 50B, because it is different. It's much different to the 57. The T-57 is more of a heavy, the 50B is more of a medium, and I like that different play style. You know, I like the fact that it is completely different to the T-57. The only thing that's the same is that it's got 3 shells. That's the only thing the same between the 50B and the T-57. So what are your opinions? What are your opinions on the 50B? Do you think it actually needs changing, or do you think it's good as it is? Will it be better with the change, or is it just going to be awful? Let me know in the comments below. So now we're just going to finish up. It is the same map as last game, didn't realize that. We're just going to finish up here with Daft Tanks finishing and having a sort of good battle. So he's on 3.6k damage at the moment. Again, it's a 3 versus 4, and he's going for the easier targets, the lower hit point tanks that he can actually clear with his magazine. So he's going for the E50, and he does manage to clear him to bring it now down to a 3 versus 3. Of course, he is on a reload now, so it is good sort of trying to, while you're on that reload, to try and get into the kind of positions that you need to. So by the time you get into that position, you have basically just about reloaded. Of course, there is a full hit point mouse up there to deal with, but there goes the AMX-30B. That's another tank I'd like to I'd be interested in how that changes. And of course, overall the collectibles and the premium tanks, I'd like to see how what Wargaming do with these tanks, because a lot of people were like, Wargaming can't touch these tanks, they're premiums, blah blah blah. But again, if you watch Droodles' video, and we've explained it many times, most of these tier 10 premiums are actually collectibles. And when Wargaming first introduced collectibles into the game, they did state that these tanks can be buffed, these tanks can be nerfed, because they're only collectibles. They're not full-on premium tanks. And then you're going to say things like, what about the Chieftain Mark 6 or the 121B? Now, or the M60. These are not in collectible tanks, but they're also not premium. They're actually enriched tanks. There is no tier 10 premium tank, either that enriched or they are collectible. So they can, in fact, touch any tier 10 tank that they want. They can nerf it any way they want. And you guys will probably complain. Some of you guys will complain, especially if they nerfed, say, the T22. People are like, oh my God, they nerfed the T22. I want my money back. No, because you signed up for that when you bought that tank. You signed up that saying that you bought a collectible tank, knowing that collectible tanks can actually be nerfed. So it'll be interesting to see what actually Wargaming do with these collectible tanks and enriched tanks. But yeah, decent games there from these two players. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye bye for now.